All right, I think it's working. It's working now. Hopefully this works. I tried this once already and the video didn't really process or post. But this is gonna be the first video of a new thing I'm gonna try and do. Lick of the week. Might not be every week. But the idea is to give you larger musical ideas to improvise with when you're, jamming over some backing tracks or something. Most of the questions I see people have about jamming to backing tracks comes down to, they feel like they're just it just sounds like scales, like they're just playing scales. And that's because they're not, stitching together larger ideas. It's kind of like trying to write a book after you've just learned the alphabet, but before you've learned any words. Does that make sense? So we're going to try and give you a bunch of words so that when you're improvising, you're stitching together this idea, and then you play a couple notes to play this idea, and then you connect it with some notes, and you go to this idea. It's not just kind of note, 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 note. It's a word connected to a word. So the first one we're going to do is a nice little filler idea that you can kind of use all over the place. Doesn't sound like much, but you can do a lot with it. I feel like I know this most from, it's like a Arctic Monkeys song. Or something like that. That's what it reminds me of, but it's, probably all over the place. I've got it written in the, if you're looking right there, I've got it written in the pentatonic box. And right now it's in an C major pentatonic box, or you could call it an A minor pentatonic box, depending on, the context. Really comes down to what you're resolving around. If you are starting from this C, that feels done on a C, and it feels kind of warm and happy. But if I start on this A, that kind of sounds darker and moodier. It's the same set of notes, but I resolved on a different note. If I resolve around an A, that makes it A minor pentatonic. If I resolve around a C, that makes it C major pentatonic. And so this thing ends on an A. You can do this in really any boxy kind of shape. You could do it here. But when you do that, it doesn't resolve on an A, and that's fine. But, kind of the reason I chose these notes is because it ends on that A and feels resolved. This note wants to go into that. This note wants to go back to that A, so it has a lot of pull that feels really satisfying when it lands on that note. But you could do that, here to create some tension to then land on there and resolve that tension. This is all about kind of just setting up tension and resolving the tension. You can also do this in the little pentatonic if you use this channel. I've given some names to some of these shapes, these pentatonic shapes. The first one we started with on this channel was, which kind of looks like a little house. But if you did, that's the same notes. I did that in a G right now, actually. Sorry, let me go back to A minor. Which means the little pentatonic is right here. They're connected. So yeah, you can go. It's the same notes as. So that's the lick. Let me play it over a few backing tracks and a couple different genres for a few minutes, and you can kind of see what it sounds like. What I'm going to try and do is use it as an idea. I'm not going to try and play it strictly as it's written, but I'm going to try and, add things to it and twist it around. And we're using this as kind of like a diving board idea. It's an idea that you use and you transform it, kind of how you're feeling at the time. Let's see, did I say all the things I wanted to say? Yeah. This hammer-on's not necessary, but it sounds a lot cooler. So you could play, or you could do a slide. The hammer-on is just my default way of playing it. All right, anyway, here we go. Let's try it over this reggae backing track first. I'll just play it for a couple minutes. This is in A minor. So I'm going to be playing the pentatonic box in the 5th fret. And so the lick is... I keep going to this note, and it's not in our pentatonic scale. That's actually part of the major scale, and I do it. That's kind of an example of chord tone targeting a chord tone. That's a note that's in. This is going between an A minor and a G. So this note is in the chord G. Just FYI. Anyway, let's try a different one. Let's do this slow blues in E. So blues in E would be E major. And if we were doing a pentatonic box, that would mean we'd want to put our pinky on E. But that doesn't sound that cool. And actually in blues, I mean, it works, and you use it sometimes. But in blues, you usually want to play a minor pentatonic, even though it's a major key. So we would do E minor pentatonic, which means you'd put your pointer finger on E. And then it's a lot bluesier. These strings are pretty fresh. Might need to do some tuning, hold on. I tune because I care. And you should too. If you don't tune regularly, you're doing yourself a disservice. You know, most people don't, they don't just assume that you didn't tune because you were lazy. They just assume that you sound out of tune because you aren't good. So, take the time. It's worth it. All right, so in here, that was the idea, but I, put some flair on it. So I'm playing in the 12th fret, but the 12th fret's the same as the open string, so you could also use the open pentatonic, which we've learned on this channel. And in that case, this would be... Oh, not right there, it'd be right here. The strings are already out of tune again. Do the little pentatonic. Oh, man. Oh. All right, so that was a bluesy one. Let's just do one more, just so you can see it in all the context. Here's some funk. This one's in B minor. This is E, this is F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B. So there's B, and for minor, I put my pointer finger there. Going a little pentatonic. Whoop. All right. I'll stop. So, that's the idea. If you have any questions, let me know. This was kind of just like I said, a filler idea that I use just all the time. But the licks coming after this one are all taken from like famous solos and stuff. So I'm giving you not just like what I think sounds cool, but like what everybody collectively thinks sounds cool. So yeah, you know, something from like Stairway to Heaven, the solo from that, the one from Hotel California. If you have any requests, let me know. Send me a link to the solo you like with a timestamp to the lick that you think sounds cool, and I'll use it. That'd be sweet. All right, well, if this was helpful, tell me, and I'll do more of these. If not, tell me, and I'll stop. Cool. See you.